Tartaglia is getting his third rerun, but should you summon for him? That's what we're here to talk about today. We'll cover his playstyle, pros, cons, how to use him most effectively, team comps, and misconceptions about the character as well. And by the end of this video, you should have a pretty good idea if you want to pull for Childe or Tartaglia or not. So let's start with his character profile. The first thing to know about Tartaglia is that he fulfills the role of enabler on your teams. An enabler is a character that applies lots of one element, thereby amplifying the amount of elemental reactions your team can put out. His E skill, Foul Legacy Raging Tide, switches him from bow form to melee form with dual water swords, allowing him to get up close and personal for a lot of fast attacks. These attacks not only apply lots of hydro, but also a unique mark called Riptide. Riptide is this little marker that explodes and deals AoE damage to nearby enemies. His E skill also has a dynamic cooldown, which means that the longer you stay in melee stance, the longer the cooldown on this ability will be. Even if you use his E and then immediately turn it off, you're still going to have at least another 6-second cooldown before you can use it again. He can stay in his melee state for up to 30 seconds with a cooldown of up to 45 seconds. His elemental burst also has two forms, a bow form and a melee form. The burst in his bow form deals AoE hydro damage and places Riptide on opponents. It also has a nice bonus of refunding you energy after you use it. The melee form, burst, does more damage but doesn't apply Riptide and doesn't refund you any energy. Unlike other characters that you can heavily invest into and they will carry you the whole way, Tartaglia needs the support of his teams, which means he needs strong teams to really shine. While his damage is decent on his own, don't expect him to put up the same numbers that someone like Zhao, Ganyu, or Hu Tao will do. However, a skilled player using the right teams with the right amount of investment can really make Tartaglia shine and really boost your team's damage quite a bit. Here are the pros for our favorite Fatui Sugar Daddy. He has great hydro application, great amounts of hydro AoE, he frees up Xingqiu for your other team, and he's great at C0, not needing constellations like some other 5 stars. As for the cons, playing Tartaglia effectively requires you to learn specific playstyles and micromanagement. His bow form is kinda meh, and he's reliant on other units to really shine. He also needs high amount of investment in his entire team, not just himself. And he's really not that great early in the game. Now let's talk about Tartaglia's constellations because these are some things that people often misunderstand about this character. Tartaglia's constellations seem great, but honestly they're not needed. He's great at C0, and while his constellations make him a little bit better, it's probably not for the reason you think. Most people see Tartaglia's constellations and think that they make him better because they allow you to enter his E state more often. But the truth is, if you're playing Tartaglia well, you don't need any of those constellations. So what his constellations actually do is allow you to make more mistakes. A Constellation 0 Tartaglia can have tight timing windows, and his constellations mostly revolve around making it easier to get into his melee stance. Basically, you can think of his constellations as a way to pay to not learn his proper rotations, because the most optimal way to play Childe is just to switch him onto the field for a few seconds and then switch him out again. As far as the weapons that he can use, there's quite a variety. Skyward Harp is currently his best weapon, although the new Polar Star weapon might actually be better. It's looking like it could be better, but we haven't received it yet. The weapon is not live, so we can't test anything. As far as 4-star weapons go, Rust is a really good weapon for him. When Tartaglia uses his E skill to switch into his melee stance, those attacks are considered normal attack damage, so the passive on Rust works very well for him. It also has the aesthetic benefit of matching him pretty well. Another good 4-star option for him is the Viridescent Hunt. You can get this from the Battle Pass. And this weapon can be good on Tartaglia for 2 reasons. One, its substat is crit rate, which can help him proc the Riptides more often. And the second reason is that this bow has a passive that draws in enemies, kind of like a tiny Ventiult that makes a little vacuum field, and that's really nice when he's using his melee attacks, because it helps group up enemies so he can do all his splash damage. Another potentially good option for Tartaglia is the Stringless. This is used for a build called One-Shot Childe. That build is a completely different playstyle. Basically, it's used to maximize Tartaglia's elemental burst so that when he uses it in melee form, he deals a ton of damage. But in my opinion, this is not a great way to build Tartaglia, especially early on, because it requires a lot of specific units and very heavy levels of investment in Tartaglia. Now let's take a look at the banner and the 4-star characters that are coming with Tartaglia in the new update. We can see here the featured 5-star character is Tartaglia, and the 4 stars on the banner are Chongyun, Ningguang, and Yanfei. Those 4 stars happen to be the exact same that were on the Ayaka banner. Honestly, the 4 stars on this banner are not that great. They all can definitely fulfill their roles. However, characters like Yanfei and Ningguang really want high constellations to really show what they can do. And Chongyun can be quite a good character, but he does require some specific setups, and is not great universally like some other 4-star characters. Just as a quick note, none of these characters actually work well with Tartaglia. Both Yanfei and Ningguang are intended to be main DPS characters. Chongyun can enable freeze, but can't work for Tartaglia because he's a bow character. So there's really no synergy between these 4 stars and Tartaglia. Speaking of team compositions, Tartaglia has 2 major compositions that he runs in. The first of which has been dubbed the Childe National team. This is a team with Tartaglia, Zhongling, Bennett, and a 4th slot, either a Sucrose for Viridescent Shred, or sometimes a Shielder as well. Because Tartaglia applies so much Hydro in his melee stance, he allows Zhongling to vaporize every single hit of her elemental burst. This is Tartaglia's best team, and it deals quite a lot of team damage overall. It also has the added benefit of freeing up your Xingqiu for the other side of the Abyss. And that can be quite valuable since Xingqiu is wanted by basically every Pyro DPS in the game. Tartaglia's other team composition features Beidou, Fischl, and usually Bennett. This team composition is often known as Taser Tartag. The team revolves around the Electrocharge reaction. Beidou and Fischl together apply tons of Electro to the enemies, while Tartag's Hydro and AoE spreads it around with the Electrocharge. The result are seeing tons and tons of numbers on the screen as all the enemies get electrocuted and the electricity bounces between one enemy to the next. It's quite fun to play, but damage-wise it's not as good as Tartaglia with Zhongling and Bennett. So that leaves the question, should you pull for Tartaglia? If you like characters with high skill expression, tight rotations and fast attacks, and that also require precise dodging to maximize a damage window, then Tartaglia is your man. Think of him almost as the assassin archetype of character from other games. He's fast and agile and has the opportunity to deal a lot of damage in a few seconds. However, because he needs to line everything up in that tight window, you really have to have good movement and control over the flow of battle to maximize his output. If you don't find a playstyle that punishes you for poor management of precision, timing, movement, and cooldown simultaneously, you probably won't find Tartaglia rewarding. However, if you enjoy this type of micromanagement, then you can probably make a great Tartaglia player. Other considerations you should have before pulling for Childe are considering his team comps. Since he's so reliant on his teams, ask yourself if you have the following 4 stars. Do you have Fischl? Do you have Beidou? Everyone can get a free Zhongling, but do you also have Bennett to partner with Tartaglia and these other team members? Because Tartaglia is a damage enabler, you want other characters to maximize his capabilities on the team. And by his capabilities, I mean his ability to maximize his other team members' damage. Tartaglia was actually my first 5-star character that I got when I started playing this game. And to be completely honest, I really didn't like him that much. Originally, I didn't like his playstyle because the long cooldown of C0 Childe felt too limiting. I also didn't have characters like Fischl, Beidou, or Bennett to really maximize his potential. So after playing with Tartaglia for a little bit, I actually regretted pulling for him. Because of this, Tartaglia took a seat on my bench for a long time. But once I invested in Zhongling and got a Bennett, it felt so much better. However, then I got Xingqiu, and he just feels better to use with Bennett and Zhongling than Tartaglia does for me. So now I run Tartaglia with Fischl and Beidou, and it's a lot of fun because of all the numbers popping up, but I still don't enjoy his playstyle as much as some of the other teams I can build. So if I could go back in time, I probably wouldn't pull for Tartaglia because I don't like his playstyle that much, but at the same time, I don't think it was a mistake to pull for him either. So the question you need to ask yourself is, would you still want to play Tartaglia without the best characters for his best teams, knowing that he can only do decent damage and not reach his full potential without them? If the answer is yes, then go ahead and pull for him. And if the answer is no, then I would advise against pulling for him, because it could be a very long time before you get those characters. In the end, if you can answer the questions I put forth with a confident yes, then Tartaglia is your guy. If however you feel unsure, then play around with him in the test realm. Just be wary that those test environments are made to make the character feel strong, so don't use the character test realms as a measurement of their strength, but rather as a measurement of enjoyment. If you really enjoy playing Tartaglia in that test realm, then it's probably safe to say that you'll enjoy playing him in the game overall. If you only like playing him because he's putting up big numbers in the test realm, that's a different story. But if it feels good to zip and dodge around and hit a bunch of enemies with your fast melee strikes, then you might enjoy Tartaglia's playstyle. And that's the greatest tip I can give you. Don't worry about power when you're testing a character, just worry about your enjoyment level. If you really enjoy using Tartaglia, then you're going to build him right, you're going to make him have strong teams, and you're going to be willing to invest into those teams to make sure that he can reach his maximum potential. But if you find his kit kind of clunky or limiting or don't really like certain aspects of his playstyle, then it's probably not a good idea to pull for him. Good artifacts and good weapons can save a character's damage and make them do better, but if you don't enjoy them from the outset, then nothing's really going to change that. Thanks friends, I hope this was helpful, and if you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Thank you, I'll see you later, and until next time, may order guide you.